like real cigarettes. I guess vaping is better, right? But it's just like the amount of smoke I could see come out. Like, whoa, little bit of like Lord of the Ring vibes.
So not too much smoke, but a lot of nicotine.
Okay, here we go. Guys, we have a very cool people gathered now. I want to introduce colleagues on market. We have a panel discussion named Success Secrets, Operations and Tips from European Development Studios and Publishers. And here we have Riley Andersen, co-founder and CEO at Umami Games. Hey.
Hello.
We have Karol Drzymała, CEO at Orbital Knight. Cześć.
Cześć.
And we have Anton Horbatov, Chief Producer Officer at 24Play. Привет.
Hey guys. Привет.
Okay, so here we begin. I'd like to let our viewers know why you are the proper persons to discuss their success. Being on the panel is a big success already, but what about the success in your companies? What was it? And the minute of glory begins.
Who starts?
Ready.
Okay, so I'm Danish, and we normally don't talk that much about our success like that. So it's, I mean, I guess you can see success. The big game-wise, it's definitely been ABC Runner, our biggest game so far, with more than 13.5 million downloads in 2021. On the business side, I think what I'm the most proudest of is building a company from like zero, being no one and not having any contacts, to where we are today, where we are 8 people. So it's still early in our journey, but for me, I think that's the biggest success, actually raising money and making Umami a name in the industry.
Thank you, Riley. Who's next? Karol, maybe you?
I can go. Yeah, so I mean, to me, success means that I can be in the industry. I can, have my own company, and I can be making games. And it's been 10 years now. So I mean, to me, that's like a big success story to be able to survive in this industry for so long. Which means that probably we did some things right, because across those 10 years, we probably wouldn't be lucky that much, with one game. That could be a factor. But, this consistency that we've managed, to build a number of games, which helped us build, it's now 40 people at our studio. And we started with one person, which was me. So yeah, that's and I'm really grateful for that. Like, and for my team that that they've been able to deliver consistently.
Very important. I absolutely agree with you. Thank you, Anton. What would you tell?
Yeah, so obviously success is bringing up hits to the charts, making sure that a lot of people play games that you've developed and they have fun. This is very good. As a developer, you have all this fame and glory that comes along, because you're the one who managed to actually deliver games that everyone likes. This is for one, from the business perspective and studio perspective. We've managed to grow like from a very small studio to one of the biggest players for developers, at least in hyper casual. So this is a pretty big success too.
Thank you. Really, that was impressive. Now I feel really lucky to be among you guys. And before we begin discussing the phenomena of success, let's compose a common definition of success for the game development and/or publishing company. What are your thoughts on this? What is success for game developer or publisher? What is it?
I think, as Karol said, I mean, being able to survive for 10 years, that's definitely successes. So being able to sustain your business, right? I mean, that's success can be many things. Actually, I thought a lot about this. It can also, making for me as well, like making games that affect a lot of people, especially because we're in hyper casual. There's like the mass is important, where maybe for other genres it's more entertaining a specific amount of players for a very long time. Also, I just think it's worth mentioning having fun each day, actually wanting to go to get up and go to work each day without it. But for me, the biggest success is that it doesn't feel like a job, that you're having fun each day.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's true. For me, success is delivering hits and just enjoying the fact that you affect a lot of people's lives with your games. This just feels like on a personal level very satisfying. And yeah, obviously, yes, actually surviving on the market in game development is something good for sure.
Wow, thank you. Karol, what are your thoughts on this? How would you define the success for the game developer?
Well, actually, I think it's really hard to define because obviously there are objective measures like if you deliver a hit, how profitable your studio is, how many downloads you have. Obviously, those are like the objective measures. But I think what's most important are those like your internal like definition of what a success is. Like to me, like what Riley said, like it's that you're doing a job that doesn't feel like work. That's like that's what success is about. So, and hard to say more, hard to add more what you guys already said, but yeah, that's, and being able to sustain that, like because obviously there are ups and downs, and you have to be prepared like for like having like good games, like having good times. That's nice, but you have to be also prepared like for those periods where things don't go right, and you'll be able to have plans and to survive basically during that period. That is difficult, and but once you're through that, you feel like a big sense of gratification, and that also can feel like like a success.
So it's also about feelings, right? To feel satisfaction, to feel joy from what you make, right?
Right. And there's 40 people at my studio, and being able to provide a safe workplace and sustainable jobs for this amount of people, and seeing and caring about them, seeing that they are well treated, and they also feel that they don't actually doing their dream jobs, that also brings a lot of satisfaction, and ultimately that sense of success.
Thank you so much. So let me summarize, and please correct me if I do a mistake or forget something. The success for the game development, sorry, for the game development or publishing company consists of the next things. First of all, is of course to survive and sustain for many years, having fun each day from what you do, delivering hits. And when job doesn't feel like a job, being prepared for ups and downs, and to carry people in the team. So as for me, a lot about feelings. Most of points were about feelings, about how you feel about what you do, to be happy, to feel joy, to feel satisfaction. That is the success. So to a big surprise for me at least, no one is talking about KPIs. Just mentioned a little bit that they should be in place as a base for sustain.
Yeah, cool. I would say that KPIs are just a means to to an end, right? Because ultimately it's kind of like talking about success is kind of like a philosophical discussion, I would say, because it can mean different things to different people. But KPIs, obviously, they are not unimportant, but they are the means, and the ultimate, the end of the road is, just that you need to basically be happy about what you do, right? And that's all about it. That's basically that's life. What's life all about, right?
Yeah, it's worth to mention that we have a developer speakers as this panel. We don't have like publishers. So I believe that if we had a publisher, he would also mention that it's very important to earn a lot of profits from hit games. But for the developer, it's not about that mostly. Of course, it's nice to have profits and all this money. That's cool too, but as a developer, first of all, I want to know that my games are helping the world. That people are enjoying the games. That's the core.
And I think an interesting thing to think about, at least I don't know if you agree, Anton, but the fun thing is with success, it's an intrinsic thing, right? Which is why the metrics is an extrinsic thing. But the fun thing is, at least the way I feel like, before we made ABC Runner as a team, of course, over time you become better, but we were just as successful in a way before, like the month before ABC Runner reached first on the US chart, as we were the month after. But the outside world sees success very much on metrics, as you said, and stuff. So it definitely brings a confidence, I think, making good metrics, like having, okay, I knew I was super cool. Now the metrics also tells me I'm super cool, right? At least for me, that's something that's interesting to think about, that you were as good as you were before you had the KPIs that told you were good, right? It's just easier to believe once you see those metrics. Shit, I am amazing. Like we are.
Wow, what an impressive outcome, really. And yeah, metrics are secondary. It's something supporting developers, but not the goal itself. So cool, so cool. Okay. From theory to practice, actually, what's the main problem your company meets on the way to success, and what's the toughest challenge to achieve it?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to start?
That's a nice one, actually. Yeah, it's a really good question. So obviously you have to hit a low CPI, right? Sometimes you have to spend more time on a games than you'd expect. That could be a problem. In different business models, it's different, but for us, it's important to have enough time to deliver what we actually want to the market. And in case you are doing something in a hurry, when publisher comes to you and says like, okay, we have to release on Friday, and you're like, oh no, we need more time, and publishers like, no, we test it now. That comes from, I don't know, financial perspective, etc. This is what sometimes stops us from delivering. But once again, publishers are different.
Yeah, I would say it depends. Right? I would agree. On our journey, the first goal was to make a low CPI. And then when we learned that, it was actually making good in-game metrics. And then once you sort of know that, it has been more building the business. How do you then make a very big business in a market that is where most of game developers work with publishers if you want to self-publish? So just been wanting to do something, pivoting has been a challenge. Right now, very concrete is art. Fine, because we have a lot of developers, a lot of coders, as you have in hyper casual normally, but we haven't historically at Umami had that many artists, had any actually. So getting that up to speed when you suddenly have a very speedy team on the programming side has been a little bit of that's also though what I think is fun with it, right? Some new challenge, you figure it out, you move on.
Thank you. Karol, what do you think?
I mean, to me, it's hard to say talk about one thing, and I feel that those challenges, were changing as our company was changing. So, back in the day when we were smaller, like actually building a game and like delivering, good experience. That was a challenge in itself, like, you know, all the ins and outs of the game development process. And right now, when we are like 40 and we have 4 independent teams, like, to me, like, that I see more like meta challenges, I would say. You know, how to make, you know, the teams coordinate, what's going to be the next project after this project, right? I need to, you know, think ahead, and a lot of, you know, what you don't seem to notice that, but once you grow, there's a lot of communication overhead. Like, you know, if you think about it, like, communicating person to person, like, grows, you know, as n squared. Like, so if you have, like, it grows really fast with the number of people you have in the company, and at some point you start to realize, God, I need to have some sort of processes. I need to, you know, orchestrate that. And, like, it's a mess, right? So, but, you know, if I had to, you know, summarize it, I mean, the challenge is that things are constantly changing, right? So you need to constantly adapt and be flexible. And I mean, there's never a moment that you can actually feel that you're safe. Basically, you need to constantly be aware of, like, what's the next thing I need to worry about, and be prepared, and ultimately build a culture, and, like, inside yourself and inside your company that supports that kind of flexibility, you know, that you are able to react to, like, let's say, hyper casual. We weren't doing hyper casual, you know. We started in 2012. Our first major hit game was Kick Arena, released in 2014. I think it's a hyper casual game, but back then nobody called it that way. And, you know, we were doing, like, we had, like, our romances with mid-core and casual games, but, you know, then like, one of the turning points was iOS 11 and App Store changes, which affected how the games were featured. And then you had to, you know, think about user acquisition. You weren't able to build a sustainable business based on, you know, featuring alone. So, and then, you know, the hyper casual trend. And right now, hyper casual trend is, you know, kind of saturated. So we are looking for other things. We just get a game with Apple Arcade. So, and, you know, it's constantly, you know, changing, right? So you need to keep track of all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So. Sorry for not giving, like, one short answer, but I think it's quite complex.
There's no simple solution for that, I believe. Now, very interesting, guys. You mentioned the thing to be prepared for changes, and Karol told at the very beginning to be prepared for ups and downs. So it looks like this is something trendy to be prepared for good and bad happening around you. How can we be prepared? How can we feel okay about things, unknown things coming to us, and being prepared for downs, for some other unpleasant stuff? What do you think?
When you start and you have your very first down moments, it feels bad. But when you have more experience, meaning that you have more ups and downs, you're not, like, thinking too much about the downside, how bad it is, etc. You're actually trying to solve it, and this is something that comes with simply experiencing these ups and downs. And when you are actually, like, experiencing some, you'll have more chances at solving the next downs that you have. So this is something about surviving and sustainability. Once you are able to sustain yourself for 5 years, 10 years, you're probably going to survive through the upcoming decades.
Cool, thank you. Okay, really, what do you think?
Yes, well, I am. What was the question again? Now, sorry, I lost it.
How to be prepared for ups and downs?
Yes. Because I was listening to Anton, and I agree. The more you are in the industry, the more you are aware. But when that's said, I think for me, actually, maybe with a challenge, one could have mentioned that as well. I think the whole IDFA, iOS 15, that was a good example, at least for us, for challenge that we knew were coming. So I guess I have two perspectives. One is that, sure, you need to be aware of what's happening with the whole industry, like the idea of what changes would that make. However, at that point, we didn't know it would affect it as much as from my perspective, it did. We were also with a publisher who didn't really switch over to Google. So we were testing on iOS for a long time while everyone else moved over. So even when you see it, you sometimes don't react to it. So I think that's a good thing to actually stop up and reflect a little bit more instead of just, well, I hope everything will go and then go in your own thing. And then also second, I think that's the whole thing with this industry. At least we work so lean that I wouldn't use that much time on trying to forecast what will happen in the future, more than I would try to focus on being really good at being agile. So once I see there's a change in industry, I need to figure out, well, can I then stay in my lane or do I need to pivot? Like we've pivoted towards casual, sort of a little bit Karol says as well. For us, we feel hyper casual a bit stagnated. It's hard to raise money for hyper casual and stuff. So I mean, I see it as a positive challenge. I think also that's why a lot of us we're also startups, we're game companies, but also startups, right? You have that mindset of like, I see a challenge, I go to it, I figure out how to deal with it, and I use it to my advantage. That's my input, I think, on that subject.
Great, thank you so much, Karol. How do you deal with ups and downs?
Yeah, maybe I should start with our biggest, our biggest crisis moment, and that was, I partly mentioned it. That was the time when iOS 11 came to be, and we had we were so reliant on App Store features, and we had a good relationship with Apple guys, Google guys, and that we never did user acquisition, and it took us a long time just to figure out that it was actually the system changed, and not that we started doing lower quality stuff. It took us 2-3 games, because the first time we thought, okay, maybe we did a bad game this time, let's try again. And that learned us a lot, that we should be constantly questioning what we are doing. We shouldn't be shouldn't feel too comfortable with our current processes, and since that we have this culture of not putting all our eggs into one basket. So basically, from that point on, my goal was to build a couple teams and to ensure that each team is doing a bit different projects. So we have a couple projects. We are doing some stuff with Apple Arcade. We are doing some stuff with Voodoo. We are doing some stuff with some other publisher, and this kind of stagnation of hyper casual came at a moment when we were trying, an Apple Arcade project, and we did it, for the sake of diversification. We kind of didn't know what to expect, but it sounded cool, but it wasn't supposed to be our main driver of revenue or something like that. Just for the sake of doing something else, and it turns out that that game proved to be a big success, and at the same time we lost momentum on the hyper casual side. So it kind of worked, that strategy. So if you have the manpower, I mean it does require you to be a kind of a bigger studio, but if you do have the manpower, I would highly suggest being on a couple of fronts, at least some exploring some potential stuff that's not in the space of what you're actually doing at the moment. So this gives you a bit of a headroom in case things go south. Right?
I've heard that from other teams as well. You said you're around 40 people, right, Karol?
Yeah.
I've heard that at least from another Danish studio around the same size, that they also had several projects at once. It's funny because for us, we have actually tried narrowing it down, because in Happy Casual, we didn't have, I don't know if you guys, Anton, if you have any restrictions. We didn't have any restrictions. It was everything hyper casual. It could be anything from a typing game to a runner to a not real multiplayer, but we didn't have any restrictions at all. But at some point we felt ooh, especially with the market also stagnating, we sort of need to narrow it down a bit. But we're also only 8 people, right? So yeah.
Mhm.
What about you? You're a lot of people, right? At 24 Play.
Yeah, we are around 60 people in the studio. So yeah, and talking about diversification, we've had it for the whole time. So we were working with different publishers, and we were able to do pretty much everything that we want to. So in case one publisher doesn't want puzzles and we want to deliver a puzzle, we want to develop it, and we feel like it's going to be cool, we just go to the other publisher who is willing to do some puzzles. So this is how we were diversified from the start. So we didn't have this publisher to developer leash that may occur at some point with exclusivity and etc. When I don't know, it's the worst part of those downs when you are an exclusive developer with publisher X and publisher X doesn't want to work with you anymore, and you have to find the publisher Z, and it takes time, and this hurts. Yes. So this is why we diversified from the start, and so despite the fact that we were diversified on this publisher basis, right? So we were reliant on more than one source of income. We actually also started developing, exploring new genres. So as you say, casual, or I know, hybrid casual, because we've managed to build a team, and this team can do pretty much anything. They are very well trained. They know how to polish stuff. They know how to develop. We have all this process for different projects, and as much as we scaled in terms of partners that we are working with, we are also able to scale the development. So if we want to start developing a game a bit harder, or even relatively harder than an ordinary hyper-casual prototype, we are actually able to do that. And this comes just from the fact that the processes in the company are built that way, that we have, well, we can do anything. I mean, literally. uh, yeah, but yeah, it comes with the fact that sometimes, like for example, if you start a harder project and your team is trained or hyper casual, you are probably going to have small setbacks here and there. But in the end, once you are actually exploring the more complex development, you get to know it better, and next time you are not going to make the same mistake that you had done prior to that experience. So yeah, it's important to always explore new stuff. It is.
Thank you so much. So to wrap up, it's not only about mentally being ready for troubles and mental sustainability, but also about exploring new markets connected to what you do right now, to watch marketing trends and diversify your management, working with different publishers, with different genres and different types of hyper-casual games, right? About that.
Yeah, anyway,
Oh
it's
yeah,
important
yeah.
to like what you're doing. I mean, to like the genre you're working on. So, for example, we would never do a match 3 game because we don't like match 3 games, right? So we are looking at something else.
That's funny because we started doing match 3.
It's a whole
Okay.
new world
Well,
of,
You know,
Yeah,
there's
but,
universal food for everyone. The same with movies, with games, with just everything. That's normal. Diversity
Yeah.
is cool.
maybe I should try one
you should
match 3
try
project.
the Royal Match one. I think that's very snappy among many.
I think it's worth adding one more thing. I mean, if you're smaller, I mean, this is where we've been some time ago. And when you're smaller and when you start and when you get a hit game, maybe don't spend all that revenue on fancy cars or that stuff. Just save something for the rainy day.
Yeah, having this skill under your head is important. It just seems so obvious that you have to plan your financials for a bit.
I mean, it's tedious. It's tedious, but you need to do it. Yeah.
Very cool point. Thank you, Karol. Okay, so since here are companies of different size, really, I want to ask: do challenges differ for small, mid-sized, and big companies? How do you feel? And how do you define by the way companies by sizes? What is a small company? What is a mid-sized company? What is a big company? So what do you think? Do challenges differ?
Definitely, I think it differs, right? The challenges for sure. How to define what is small, and I think that like the government in Denmark has a definition of what is. For me personally, I feel like we are 8 people. I would say we're still a small company. Just like from my stomach, I feel like 0 to 20, that's small. 20 to 50 is mid-size. 50 to 100 is big, and plus 100 is huge. But I think it's also because we are early. I would maybe Karol and Anton would see it differently, as there are way more people. But sure, just from us, from being 3 people to 8 people, there's different challenges, as Karol says as well. The whole fact about the block, once you become 40 people, I think even going from 3 to 8, it's just, there's way more bureaucratical things about. Then someone is sick, right? And someone's mother is, there's just a lot of things that is not about game development anymore. Where I feel like when we were only 3 people, it was just so much just about exactly that, right?
And you have a company, right?
Yes, yeah. And taxes, and then, a lot of practical stuff. But,
I'd say that small company is a company who do not require some project management. Medium companies actually have project managers and different projects, and big companies require an HR. So I would say that pretty much a point when you need to have an HR specialist in your company who's actually doing human resources, you're becoming big. So it's not about the amount of people in your team, but the overall approach to your business perspective, because you can grow pretty much anytime, and the number of team members will grow, but the company will stay small anyway, because that's how it is. It's just one point of view, and from the other point of view is when you feel like, I don't know, you could say that you have a family and your family is your small company. Then you add all the aunts and uncles and, I don't know, like granddads, and now you're medium. And when you have this big tree of family connections, you are now big. So, and this is why it's so important to have this communication aligned well with all the management that you have to include, and etc. Then you're becoming bigger and bigger, because you have to make sure that every communication line is working properly. And it's easy when you are just 5 people, and it's harder when you are 50 people.
Thank you. Karol, what do you think?
I would look at it from like purely communication perspective. I would say like a small company is that I can talk. I mean, I talk with everybody on the team on a daily basis, and I know everybody. I have like a FaceTime with everyone basically every day. Like medium companies that, I know everyone. I remember their names, right? But it's not, it's not manageable to talk with everybody, every day. So I would say that's a medium company. And a big companies that I have people that I didn't know they were working here. So and when you look at it this, and when you look at it this way, it brings, from this perspective, it kind of defines the challenges that you'll be facing, right? So when you talk with everybody on a daily basis, you don't need any sort of processes management, because you can discuss everything, and And it would be an overhead, to do some paperwork, to formalize it. When you're a medium company, that starts being an issue, and you need to build some sort of process. But still, I think you can, do on like one-on-one calls, and during your FaceTime with your coworkers. On a big company, that's just processes. I mean, it sounds scary, but there's no other way around it. If you don't have like proper processes and this bureaucratic stuff, you're not controlling your company. So that's probably. I do like this Supercells approach, and we try to mimic it on some level. They have this approach that they build a company, out of small teams, like 20 people. I heard that they're trying to change that recently. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's kind of our approach. We try to build, a company of teams, like around 10 people. I think 20 will be max, just to have like that small company feel inside your team, and maybe medium-sized company feel outside of it. I think that's a nice compromise.
I just want to add that I think that's so cool. I've read about the Supercell approach too, and I understood it the same way. And at least for me, I would prefer if we could do it that way as well. I used to work at Tactile Games, where we were around, when I started, maybe only 15 people. It's very small. Today there are almost 300. And that, like magic, at least for me, when you're around 20, 30 people in one team, just as you say, I know who everyone is. I might not get to talk to them every day, but if you can keep that essence, I think it's very good for these creative companies.
Thank you. And it actually sounds like a very different task to work on a product in a small company and to work on processes in a bigger company. This sounds like a switch of tasks. Is it challenging to change your daily routine from producing games to producing processes? Karol, I believe you have already met this task.
It is. I mean, there was a time when I was really, pissed about it, that I can't do programming anymore, and I need to, and that my day consists basically of, basically my tool right now is talking to people, right? And that's what I do, and kind of, it smells. It feels like sometimes you're doing nothing, but you're enormously tired after a whole day of figuring out and fixing problems. But I don't know, I kind of got used to it, I would say. Let's put it that way. And somebody has to do it. And it turns out to be me.
Yeah, it is a different type of work. You're not used to doing something like building process after you're building games, but it depends on your background actually. So in case you were doing like business development prior to producing games, and then you're back to this business development, you are more you just feel better about it because you actually done something like that. This is my personal experience. I was doing business development first, then I was doing producing, and then I was mostly back into the business development. Right now it's, I don't know, like 50-50. I managed to both produce games as a producer, and doing the management part partially. So for me, it wasn't like this drastical, but for somebody who was actually developing games as a developer and then turned to a manager, this must be hard. But as Karol said, someone must do it.
Yeah, I think for me, like for us, being such a small team, you are still pretty hands-on with a lot of stuff. It has changed a lot from being 3 people, just to now being 8. Where being 3 people, I was my 2 other co-founders are technical, so they can code, and we always had this rule: like, if you can code, then please code, because I cannot help with coding, but I can do not art, I would say, but a lot of other things, like level design, also do things in Unity that are not super technical, right, and stuff. Where today, like sometimes if I get a task like make something in Photoshop for a cover, I'm like, wow, that's so practical. So it's like a nice reminder back to, because there's just something like your anxiety is so low when it's like a very well-defined task that just needs to be done. At least for me, I'm very much a completion, like yes, done. Where these other tasks are more like on a, as you say, Karol, it's thinking task, right? I think for me, I'm lucky that I am a very social person by nature. So of course it takes energy, but I don't use, for example, when we went to PGC in London, me and my other co, he's a programmer. And after that, he was like, his energy level, it just tore energy out of him being in a conference with so many extroverted people. It's blah, blah, blah. Where for me, it's more that's sort of where I come alive. In that, but it is challenging. I think even now as well, also going to casual, having more of these approaches that sort of seem like a head over, but or overhead. But also think for us as a team, it's giving a lot of sense of ownership for the team to divide the decisions more into like more, not a democratic process, but in a way, this planning poker is. It gives people more chances to come with ideas and sort of feel like we're designing more together. I guess I will let you know at the next conference whether I liked it or not in the end. But so far, I think it caters for getting more sense of ownership as a team instead of having a hierarchical thing where someone decides which design should be made, and then of course the person has a lot of room for designs within that. But for us, having everyone part of the entire process has really helped in motivating everyone as a team.
Yeah. What I'd like to add, if you're moving like from a technical position like I did to this more management position, I think it helps if you're constantly asking yourself why you're doing this, right? So I mean, I'm doing this because I want my company to grow. I want my team to be successful. I want everybody to be happy. And after when you see a team that delivers a hit game, and that's the first game that you weren't developing actively, it also brings a lot of joy and it's like a sense of pride that you've managed you've built something. It's a different thing, but then you've built something. You've built now a team that is capable of doing replicating what you did previously, and now those guys can do it. So I mean, it's a different kind of challenge, and it helps to look at it this way, that I mean, you're still doing challenging stuff, but now it's a different kind of challenge.
Thank you for all the tips, and I must admit I'm really happy to be a part of industry of such talented people who's ready to perform so different tasks and perform them good. I really enjoy being part of the game development market. Okay, from challenges to solutions, what do you do to identify upcoming problems? How can you predict them? All this stuff you don't want to meet, but how can you see them on the horizon? Some new challenges, maybe some problems with sales or with the team or with other stuff. What do you do to predict upcoming troubles which will take you out from success?
Well, troubles can be different, Alex. I believe you know that. So sometimes it's enough to just plan everything ahead and have this money reserves on your account in case something really bad happens. So usually it's just about having a plan for a year. So in case you don't have a plan for a year, you don't know what to achieve. It's important to have these goals, and even when you experience some troubles, you still have some goals, and this motivates you to overcome them. But of course, there are different troubles. I don't know, like Russia invading your country. I'm sorry for this one, but this is a real kind of trouble, which doesn't allow you to develop games and bring your plan into life. So when we are talking about like minor stuff, like everyone suddenly switching from iOS to Google Play, it was, we knew about that. So there's also a wind before a tornado or something. So you can prepare. You just, even in case it doesn't happen, you need a plan for evacuation. And in case we are talking about switching from iOS to Google Play, we just knew how to test on Google Play, right? And in case we need to switch back, we can pretty do that. So this stuff is usually in a foreseeable future, and you know about it. But when something a bit harder comes into act, you still have those yearly goals, right? And you have to achieve them. But you just have to make sure that you have a backup plan all the time. Always have a plan B. Don't ever rely on just one plan.
Thank you.
We're reading this book called The Lean Startup. I don't know if you ever read it, but they're talking about like to define a startup as a group of people that are making products in extreme uncertain circumstances, right? And of course, it's not fun with the war at all, but it's just, how do you plan for that, right? So there will be some things that you don't know how to. I think it's about how agile you are at them taking those challenges and moving, as you guys are as well, right? Yeah, there's big challenge for us. It's a lot about also, of course, the small thing I should say is about making sure you read what's out there, what's going to happen with Apple and with the partners you have, etc. But we try to also turn the things into something positive. For example, we were in this, as you mentioned, an exclusive publishing deal, right? Which can be annoying at points. At some point, we realized, shit, I don't think we will get reach the goals we will with this partner. But however, we can use the time to then build something we'll need later. One could also just sit down and say, what to do then now, just wait, right? Until I'm out of this contract, for example. I think like changing the circumstances around to your own benefit. If you're able to do that, I think as Karol and you guys, you'll be able to survive for a long time, at least.
Right. I mean, there's a couple of problems that you need to deal with. I mean, one, financials, like those can take you out of the business. So what we do is like what Anton said, we plan for a year ahead, and we build like a very conservative plan. So like we don't overhype and like overestimate our chances. If we feel uncertain that this particular game won't make money, we tend, to go on towards the low end. So build like a pessimistic, outlook for the next year, and then ask ourselves questions. Okay, what's going to happen if this game's not going to turn out? What's going to happen? I mean, if this is going to, and look at it from a budget perspective. And if I'm going to need more money, where do I get it? When do I need to start to worry about it? So, I mean, those kind of things you can prepare. And then once we build that plan, we do a monthly review of that. So each month we, look at our finances. Okay, did we achieve that goal? I mean, did we, we never achieve it. And those plans are never true, but that doesn't mean you don't need to do them, because this is like a reference point, right? So you look at if you're above or below, and I mean, if you're above, that's fine, it's cool. If you're below, then you need to start thinking about, okay, why am I below? And I mean, sometimes someone missed a payment, that's fine. We're gonna be above the next one, but sometimes you need to look. Okay, this project is making, not in less money than I anticipated. So, and does it, does this put you in the red? So it's kind of like, warning financials, basically what a CFO would do on a bigger company. You need to do it if you're smaller. But then there's obviously the stuff that's, that's the unknown unknowns, what they call them. There's a book about it. It's called Black Swan. I highly recommend it. It's about unknown unknowns. And basically, I mean, what you can do about it is what Riley said. You need to be agile, right? So you need to be prepared that something's gonna turn out badly, and you'll need to scrap all your plans, start again, and figure out what's the next thing gonna be. And the best thing you can do is just to build a culture that's prepared for this kind of mindset. You need to acknowledge failures, right? You need to build a culture where you don't dwell on those failures. You just, okay, you acknowledge, okay, something happened, and then we move on. We start again. We do a pivot. We try, a different approach. So it's kind of like it's a mix of those hard, very processes. Some things that you can actually do and prepare, and a mix of those softer things that you cannot prepare, but you need to build, like a mindset around it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for this input. Agility, CE is the top, but also you mentioned some kind of routine stuff like planning, regular checking, and corrections of plans. So can we stress more about this, your routine, which helps you to on the way to success, and probably some instruments you use, not Unity, not something coding, but the stuff that helps you to do this routine, leading you to success. Some apps, assistants, I don't know, tools, maybe partners. What do you use with this?
So, yeah, actually, we have a very good tools that we've developed ourselves. So we have an internal CRM with all the projects that are right now under development. We can see on beautiful graphics, overall the development stages in every project. We can see also the financials, so it does most of the job in terms of collecting data, and you just have to put in numbers like project start, project end dates, and all of that is being calculated automatically. So we also have all the test results that we've done in case we want to get back to a prototype that we've done a year ago. We can easily check it out instead of, asking our publisher of what were the numbers on this prototype. So we collect data, and it also helps us to plan ahead and see the current situation, not from how I feel today scale, but on a monthly scale as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
But once again, we have to develop this tool ourselves, and I'm not sure if there is one, like an open source version.
It's actually fun. It's fun you mentioned that. We did exactly the same. Just build our own system as well. We didn't reach that because also we're smaller, right? But we managed to get everything in. Is that we don't have the Trello thing in. So that I have assembled. We have links though to Trello. Use Trello mainly for hyper casual planning. Today we actually more have a vision. So I guess all the project we use. So each morning we do a stand-up meeting, just to say like very quickly what did I do yesterday, what I'm doing today. Then we have these poker planning meetings where once we get test results for something, we go into a room. We have a lot of suggestions as what should be part of the next test. And then we vote for it. One can read up on the planning poker thing. Then other things we have. So each time we have a game, there was a specific hyper casual thing. We have this huge transparent tube in our office. So each time we have a game that goes through the app store, it's colored balls. The programmer who did it or made it writes his name on it or the name of the game, and you throw the ball into the tube. So that is growing over time, which is super nice to see. We have show and tell Fridays each Friday, which is like a thing where, so it's a shared PowerPoint where you can add a slide each of something you're either proud of or was challenging or didn't work, or kind of to get that united feeling. And I think that's basically it. We have a book club now. That's a new thing we started with casual to get an even more like united mindset. Started a book club where we're reading, and I missed it today due to this. So reading a couple of chapters, a book we're all reading, and then discuss it to get that like shared startup mindset. I think it's been really cool so far doing those things. For the culture thing, on the planning thing, there's also just tools that we have here in Denmark that are one tool that takes care of all the salary things, one tool that takes care of all the bookkeeping, at least in those tools are pretty cheap, and there's so many specific rules to each country that they take care of it, so you don't mess up in accounting, which can actually cost you a lot of money. Yeah.
Thank
It
you.
was.
Yeah, I really like your routines, Riley. I mean,
Thank you.
I need to take a note.
Yeah, we try to make it playful, right? It's just like, because here in Denmark, the biggest challenge I would say in them is the salaries. They're very high in the Nordics.
Yeah.
So we needed to get people that was super talented, but also willing to work not less than, but at a low salary, right? You need to work here because you want to get experience, because you so
But
making
you're working in the office, right?
Yes, yeah. We all working on. We only hire people that can come and then be here physically, because we really believe in this creative powerhouse energy. So we're sort of to do some things that we also did this DHL run in the summer, just to do some things together and get that united feeling of we're achieving something together.
Yeah, same here. Actually, we are all working in the office, and we've tried a bunch of times doing remote, and it just didn't work that well on most of the aspects. Maybe you have to build the company the other way, but we for sure have this like office spirit that helps us doing everything just better.
Yeah. We're actually remote. we were working in the office. I think what helped us, we built a strong culture while we were, in the office, and this helped us, build a good culture while working. I mean, in terms of our our tools and those rituals. I mean, we do that. Have the daily stand-ups, like planning review sessions. We have an all hands meeting that during which we discuss all projects, so that people from other projects get to know what's happening on the other side. But I think the overall it's all reliance on data. I would say just and a big credit to the hyper casual trends. I think a lot of developers got to feel it firsthand how to work in this process where data is the king, in which you roll out your subjective opinions, and you base the judgment on data. This really helps on many dimensions, building because human judgment tends to be noisy, right? And, when you're doing something systematically, like validating prototypes, it's good to base that on data, not on judgment. So, I mean, those are the tools that you're constantly prototyping, validating, pivoting, working on projects. This is, I think, our most important ritual. And I think it's really important, and I'm kind of grateful for the hyper casual trend that that brought this approach to the mainstream. Let's call it that way.
Thank you. So many of you have mentioned people. It's obvious the games are invented and produced by people, so team is very important. So my next question is, what are your best practices for the team built up? What do you do to find and attract the best people and make them work together as one team?
I think you need to start with, from the inside. You need to start with building a company, that people that already are working that they want to work there, right? So, and only if you have that, you can, go and look other people. I mean, if you have that, it's going to be easy because they will attract other people. People are talking. The bigger you are, you're going to get this snowballing effect, right? So, more people talk about you, and you get a reputation. If you get a bad rep, it's going to be a hard time for you to hire people. If you have a good rep, people will want to work for you. So, I mean, there's obviously more to it, but I think that's a really fundamental thing. And if I had to choose one, I would say focus on that first.
Thank you, guys. What do you think?
Just so every company has its own specific culture, and when you're hiring someone, you just have to make sure that he is actually sharing your basic cultural parts. So, for example, if somebody is not a gamer, he won't probably pass our interviews. So, and it's just important for people who do games to like games they do and play other games. So this is the most important and crucial part. In case somebody doesn't play games, he just won't be able to deliver you a good game. This is how I feel about it. And obviously, you have to make sure that you create an environment that actually helps newcomers to understand how this and that works. We have a lot of documentation, basic documentation that helps to understand how the overall company works, how this process is done, and else. So we do a lot of intros for everyone. So a producer makes an intro on the first day, and HR makes an intro, dev lead makes an intro. So everyone from the day one understands where he is. And yeah, talking about reputation, yeah, reputation matters. I mean, that for sure. Just make sure that everyone loves working with you, not otherwise.
Cool.
Yeah, I would
Really?
agree. Being upfront and honest about which culture you're creating, and then if you believe it's a cool culture, you have success, you have etc. Yeah, I think people will come to you as well, right? For us, I think the combination is, I mean, when being so small, especially in hyper casual, what we were looking for was mainly entry level people with a great portfolio, especially here in Denmark. People are very in the Nordic. People are very passionate, so they were everywhere, right? But what I would experience is I would find a lot of developers that had been coding since they were like 12 years old, already had, like, they were not even finished with their school, but already had a portfolio of 10, 15 games, right? So finding those like golden talent that just really, really love the game development, I should say, Anton, played a lot of games. It's been good for us. I've been doing different talks. I also worked as a teacher's assistant at some of the educational systems here in Denmark, teaching game development. So in that regard, I think I personally have a pretty good network within those institutes, like Nordic Game Jam, like going to game jams. And then we went out, I did a talk. I have people after writing, hey, we saw you, think it's really cool. Do you think we could be part of this? So like being aware of the educational institutions around you and the other companies, right? We are so lucky that the Denmark is such a small country that when we go to an industry party, it's together with Tactile and Zippo and Playdead, and we're very small. So you sort of know who's out there, and also the ones in Malmö, Sweden is close, Berlin is. Yeah, so having a good network and don't be afraid of also contacting people. If you're looking for a senior 3D artist role, for example, what holds you back of contacting 10 different senior 3D artists that you think would be a great fit? You never know whether one of them is ready to do like a step up, become an art director, for example, or etc., right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. But to wrap up today's conversation, a quick summary. Top 3 tips to colleagues in game development on the way to success. What would you stress are the most top 3 important things to deliver to achieve success?
Who starts?
Who wants? Who's ready?
You go, Anton.
Okay, so for one, as we discussed, plan ahead, have a plan B. 2, like the games you're doing. 3, develop the games in the highest quality you ever manage. Because as in physical training, you have to always try to achieve it being better. And when you are relaxed, you're probably never going to become better. So you have to make an extra mile with every game that you are doing and never stop making it better and better. This will in the end bring you to success. Once you are able to develop high quality games, you will deliver a hit. It's just a matter of time, man.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Who's ready?
I agree very much with Anton. I think you're saying just fail fast so you can succeed faster. Go with one. Yeah.
That's a golden one. Maybe to add my own perspective. I mean, I would say I mean, if you're at a similar stage that we are, focus on your team, because a good team and a happy team will do great stuff. A happy team will do poor stuff. So and it's really important. I saw a lot of studios not appreciate this, and it's worth mentioning. I mean, be agile, of course. You need to be flexible enough to intercept different challenges, problems that are coming your way. And I think lastly it's perseverance. I mean, you need. I mean, there's gonna be those worst days, and just hang tight. You're gonna survive this, and even if you don't, you're gonna be wiser. It's everything's a lesson. So yeah, that's me. That's gonna be.
Thank you so much. I was really happy to have an hour with you guys in such a brilliant company. Thank you for coming and sharing so many insights and thoughts and emotions. I personally appreciate and believe other guys online do the same. Thank you and have a great time on the conference.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye
Good
bye.
day. Glory to
Bye.
Ukraine.